What's good? What's good? What's good? What's poppin'? It's your boy Blanco. We back in the building, man. We here with another episode of the Keep It Authentic podcast, man. I'm your host Blanco. What's happening? What's happening? It's Tuesday. Hope everybody's having a blessed day. Hope everybody had a beautiful weekend. And we back at it, man. I know it's been a while since I done posted any videos. Y'all gotta bear with me, man. I'm a new channel. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to find my lane, you know what I'm saying, and stay in that. But today we're gonna be discussing a story, man, that has been in the news for about a week or so now. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't know, it's about a young woman out of Chicago who was just recently unalived, in a situation. So today we're gonna be, checking out the video, and we're gonna be breaking it down. And I want to make this clear, man. I am not here to indict anyone. I'm not here to investigate anybody's case. You know what I'm saying? I want to make that very clear. The purpose of me even talking about this particular subject is to try to bring awareness to the world as to what's going on in a lot of these urban communities, if that's what they want to call them. And, you know, try to make sense or try to get some type of understanding or some type of common solution of how we can prevent these type of situations from happening time and time again. So once again, the commentary that you may hear me speak throughout this video, I want to make it very clear. In no way, shape, form, or fashion am I condoning any sort of violence. So I'm not saying that, you know, any of the commentary that I may give throughout this video is directed or justifying any of the actions that took place. So I want everybody to clearly understand that, because, you know, sometimes people take statements and things that people say on the internet and they can sometimes get taken out of context, or they can sometimes get misconstrued. You know, so like I said, in no way, shape, form, or fashion, now when we watch this video, whatever comes out, whatever details, whatever theories form as motives or whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? In no way, shape, form, or fashion am I saying that any of this is justifiable. I'm just giving my opinion like everybody else. So once again, man, like I said, if you tuned in, please like, you know, comment, subscribe to the channel. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we're gonna get into this video, and we're gonna, you know, go through the details that have already been made public, and we're gonna try to make sense of this situation. So with that being said, right, you know, when this story first broke, right, and the first time I heard about the story, I seen another YouTuber that I watch on a regular basis. Shout out to Hood Educated. You know what I'm saying? He was the first person I saw report on the story. So when I first watched it, and I watched him cover it, you know, and the details that was out at that point in time, you know, I looked at the situation and I was like, well, it doesn't seem like this was meant for this young lady. To me, it seems like it was meant for the young man that was traveling with her. You know what I'm saying? That's what it seemed like initially. And that, once again, that's based on the details that had been made public. You know what I'm saying? So there weren't a lot of details at that time. So now, recently, there have been more details revealed. And upon looking at these details, you can get a better understanding of, okay, you know, that can possibly be a motive. You know what I'm saying? This can possibly be a motive. So that's what we're here to do today. We're here to look at the video, discuss, you know, the facts that have been made public, and, you know, try to get an understanding of how we can prevent these type of situations from happening, you know, over and over again. So with that being said, man, let's go ahead and get into the video. Shout out to Crime on Pulse. This video is courtesy of Crime on Pulse. You know what I'm saying? And once again, I'm only using this video as reference. You know what I'm saying? All of what you hear me speak on is alleged. You know what I'm saying? It's entertainment and educational purposes only. So like I said, I've already fast forward like the first part of the video, because the first part, I'm not gonna lie to you, is pretty graphic, and, you know, I don't want to show that on YouTube. So hopefully I don't, you know, skip past the most graphic parts of the video. You know what I'm saying? If not, YouTube, forgive me. I will try to, you know, possibly edit it out after the video is done. But let's get into the video.
May Street in Chicago. Around 1:25 in the afternoon, 3 men approached the vehicle and fired over 50 rounds in broad daylight.
fast forward past that. We're gonna show that here. Okay, once again, shout out to Crime on Pulse. Make sure y'all
Gabryel
go over there and
Ayers,
show
who
them
went by
some
the
love.
nickname
Subscribe to
GI
the
Na
channel.
or Gabby, was a 26-year-old hairstylist who owned and operated her own salon in Chicago. She was known as hardworking, dedicated, and passionate about her craft, spending her days making her clients feel confident and beautiful. People who knew her described her as kind and focused on building something stable for herself. Back in August 2024, Gabryel shared a post that gave a glimpse into her mindset when it came to protection and loyalty. Someone had posted a question asking what someone would do if their baby's father was getting jumped by 6 people. Gabryel responded, saying, "I ain't one to hurt people, but don't push me." It was the kind of post that showed she wasn't someone.
Okay, let's stop right there for a minute. Let's stop right there for a minute. Now let's address this post. Okay, let's not, forget the question that was being asked. If, 6 people was jumping your baby daddy, would you defend him or would you help him, whatever the case may be? Okay, now listen, we've all been sitting around our friends and, just shooting the shit, you know what I'm saying? And we've all been asked questions like this, you know what I'm saying? On both sides, men have been asked, if, such and such was happening to your baby mama or your girlfriend or whatever, would you help her out and vice versa? So we've all been placed in situations like this. So listen, this particular post, right? I'm not taking this and saying, okay, this is enough to go out and target somebody. You know what I'm saying? Based on this, the response to a question she was asked. So I'm not taking this, you know what I'm saying, as, anything other than just her and her girls or her and her, homies or whatever, just talking shit. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep going.
One who backed down, that she had a protective side when it came to the people she cared about. In December 2024, Gabryel gave birth to a baby girl, and from that moment on, being a mother became the center of her world. She wasn't just living for herself anymore. She was building a future rooted in stability and love for her child. On December 20th, 2025, Gabryel celebrated her daughter's first birthday and went all out for the occasion. She posted about it, calling her daughter the prettiest girl in the world and expressing how much she loved her. Now, months before that joyful celebration, Gabryel had faced some legal trouble. In September 2025, she was arrested and charged with retail theft under $300 and theft of lost or mislaid property under $500. On September 23, 2025, Gabryel posted on social media that her case was dismissed. She celebrated being found not guilty, mocking anyone who had been following her legal troubles.
Okay, let's stop again. Okay, so let's address this situation right here. Okay, so they just told us that, prior to this, she had some involvement with the law, some retail theft or whatever the case may be, right? Okay, so once again, we've all been in situations like this where, you may have people that don't care for you that much, and the minute you get caught up in some shit, they use that as opportunities to clown and troll and do whatever they do, right? We've all been in situations like this. So once again, here's another statement being made, which in my opinion is not anything to really take serious. So me looking at this, right? If I saw this, even if this girl was my enemy, right? If I saw this, this is not enough for me to be like, you know what? I'm tired of hearing her mouth, man. Let's just go ahead and get her up out of here. You know what I'm saying? So once again, this is just another situation where she done beat the case and all the people that was preying on her downfall, she basically throwing it back in their face like, okay, you can kiss my ass. I know y'all was hoping that I was going to go down and all this and that. But like I said, once again, another case of just shooting the shit. But let's keep going.
Life seemed to be moving forward for Gabryel. She had her salon, her daughter, and she was working toward building the kind of future she wanted.
okay, hold on. Let me pause it one more time. And like, listen, I'm gonna try not to pause it as much, but I want to try to help y'all get a better understanding. So right now, thus far, everything that we've seen about this girl thus far has been a lot of positive stuff. She got her own little hair business going. You know what I'm saying? She just recently had a baby. She is so far from what we can see. She's handling her mother duties and all that. So everything we've seen thus far has all been positive. And this goes back to what I was saying before when I first caught wind of this story. These were some of the same things that they were saying in the beginning. They was giving us all of this positive stuff. She got her own hair business going on. She just recently had a daughter, and she taking care of her baby. She doing what a mother's supposed to do. So thus far, this is what led me to believe when this story first came out that, okay, listen, as far as, we could see, from me, she ain't really involved in nothing where, like this would warrant something like this to happen to her. So maybe, the dude that she was with, maybe this was kind of meant for him and she just happened to be caught in the crossfire. But let's keep going.
It was a regular Tuesday afternoon in Chicago's Auburn Gresham neighborhood on February 4, 2026. Gabryel was sitting in a white car in the 7900 block of South May Street with her child's father, 27-year-old Rico Suave, who was...
Okay, now listen. When it first came out, they never mentioned that this guy was related to her in any way. But now it's coming out that the guy is her child's father. Now, I'm not sure or very clear on if they were still actively in a relationship or if they was just co-parenting their child and, they was together on this particular day. But we now know that the man that was involved, that was in the car with her, was her child's father. So we now know the connection between them two. But let's keep going.
Behind the wheel. In the back seat, strapped into her car seat, was their 13-month-old daughter. The location was significant because they were just steps away from St. Sabina Parish, a church that had long been a fixture in the community. This was a busy street in the middle of the day, the kind of place where people would be walking by, driving past, going in and out of nearby businesses. It was the last place anyone would expect any form of violence to happen. Around 1:25 in the afternoon, at least 3 men approached the vehicle. They were armed and they didn't hesitate. What happened next was captured on camera by a witness who was on their way home from work. That witness started recording as they saw what was unfolding. The men opened fire on the white car multiple times. Up in front of the white car, and the men fired several more rounds into the already destroyed.
People run. Listen to this. Up to the white car with guns in hand. Now, we are not airing the audio in this video, though in it you could hear at least 24 shots fired directly at that white car. After running away, the gunman got into a red Alfa Romeo and fired even more shots into this white car. The viewer who took this video, or sent us the video rather, told us that they are heartbroken and distraught tonight, saying that they were on their way from work when they saw the shooting. A man and a woman, both injured, with a baby they say was holding a lollipop in the back seat, crying. That viewer told us that the child was not injured, thankfully. Both adults taken to the hospital, and the male is expected to be okay.
The white car crashed into a GMC van that was nearby. The driver of the van wasn't involved in the incident and wasn't injured, just an innocent person caught in the chaos of what had just happened. After it was over, the scene on South May Street was covered in shell casings, evidence of just how many rounds had been fired in those few minutes. Gabryel had been struck multiple times throughout her body. The injuries were severe and she was critically wounded. Rico had also been hit, and while serious, his injuries weren't life-threatening. He was conscious and reportedly able to communicate with first responders when they arrived. Now, the most shocking part of all of this was that the 13-month-old baby girl in the back seat, sitting in her car seat, didn't have a single injury. A witness who arrived at the
this entire situation is that little girl did not get hit. You know, the only good that comes out of this situation, that little girl escaped with her life. And that in itself is a blessing. But let's keep going.
Seen shortly after said they saw the baby in the back seat, holding a lollipop.
More video from the scene also shows the immediate police response. Officers have marked the many bullet casings on the ground as they try to find the person responsible, people responsible. Now, the other car that you can see here, as we mentioned, the driver of this car was not involved in the shooting, we're told, but also got out of the car and refused medical attention. Just an innocent person, it seems, caught in the middle of all of this. At last check, police have said that the female victim in this case is 26 years old, the male victim 27, and as we mentioned, the male victim is expected to be okay, and the child in this case was also, we're told, not injured. We're live in Auburn, Gresham. Sabrina Franza, CBS News, Chicago. Marie.
Thanks for the update on that wild scene, Sabrina.
Emergency services arrived and Gabryel was rushed to OSF Little Company of Mary Hospital in critical condition. Rico was taken to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn, where he was listed in good condition. The baby was safely removed from the scene by a Chicago police officer and taken to be checked out at the hospital as a precaution, but she had no physical injuries.
From all indications, there were multiple shooters who fired dozens of shots, perhaps more than 50. Remarkably, all of those bullets missed a baby who was sitting in the car that was targeted.
Investigators remained at the scene well after nightfall at this corner littered with shell casings, where somehow a baby in this bullet-riddled car emerged unscathed.
Father Michael Flegger from St. Sabina Parish, which was just steps away from where the incident happened, arrived at the scene.
A miracle with all the gunshot wounds on that car on both sides and all the shooting that took place, that baby was spared and nothing. God must have a plan for that baby.
The shooting unfolded not far from St. Sabina Church and their nearby food pantry. Leo High School is also in close proximity. Father Michael Flegger says he was there too and has also seen videos circulating on social media showing more than one shooter targeting the car. He says the shooters have no soul.
These guys just coming out with long guns, just shooting. I mean, there were bullets, casings all over the street. It was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it was obviously, I don't know what the origin of this was, but they were obviously after this car and the people in it. But, you know, whether they knew or not knew a baby was in the back seat, they didn't care. They were just going to shoot wildly at this car and end up killing a young mother. It's a miracle that baby was not shot. It's a miracle.
Church workers from the parish's food pantry, which was located on that corner, had been inside during the attack and hid in a back room when they heard the shots. After the incident, they came out to try to help the victims and were part of the effort to get the baby out of the car safely.
What's the purpose of shooting at a car when you know there's a child in the car? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay. 100% with what he just said, right? But I also understand that you have some people in the world, right? And once again, I'm not condoning the actions of these people. I'm just trying to get people to understand, you know, that you just have certain types of people in the world that they just have no regard for human life. Once they have been driven to the point to where they make the decision to say, okay, I am going to take this person's life, you know, they have committed to saying that I am going to take your life wherever I see you at, you know, and it does not matter who may be with you, you know what I'm saying? So once again, these are all questions that we from the human being standpoint, you know, will ask, you know, like, why would you do this? Or how could you do this under these circumstances? And I want people to understand clearly that there are people in the world that just don't care. You know, once again, it's not justifiable, you know, and I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just pointing out that we have to learn to understand the psychology of certain people. But let's keep going.
Yeah, it could be a lot of other people who's lost their life here today.
Kirk Bell is the godfather of 26-year-old Gabryel Ayers, who relatives identify as the woman who was shot and killed in her white Chevy sedan around 1:30 p.m. at 79th and May Street, her car then crashing into a van.
This here is unbelievable. This young lady was a beautiful young lady with a beautiful child, and life just cut short. For what? They need to clean this city up. They need to. This gangs and the shooting and the killing is just...
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
Unbelievable.
The brazen nature of it left the community shaken and asking the same question over and over. Like, what could have possibly led to this level of violence? Investigators began working the scene immediately, collecting the numerous shell casings, reviewing surveillance footage from nearby buildings, and interviewing witnesses. The cell phone video that had been recorded by the witness was turned over to authorities and provided crucial evidence of what had happened. The question of motive became central to the investigation. Investigators believed that the intended target of the attack was Rico, the 27...
Exactly. So once again, this is the same thing I was saying at the beginning of the video. Initially, when I first saw this story come out, or initially, like I said, shout out to Hood Educated, because he was the one that I saw, report on the story first, and that's how I caught under the story. So initially, from watching his reporting of it, and like I said, it was fairly fresh and brand new at that point. So watching his take on it, I felt the same way he did. Like, I felt like, okay, this wasn't meant for this young lady. I think this was meant for this young man that was with her. And as you can see, this is how everybody felt initially. Because once again, you're talking about a young black woman, 26 years old. She got her own hair business going on. She's not really known to be, a troublesome person, other than that one incident she had with the law for the retail theft. But outside of that, there was no assault charges or nothing that they mentioned, in the realm of violence. Nothing that would lead you to believe that this girl was some type of career criminal and just using this hair salon thing as a front. You know what I'm saying? So once again, it's when the details come out even further, you have to re-examine it, and based on the information that you're being given, you have to look at certain things. But we get into it, so let's keep going with the video.
7-year-old man who had been driving the car. But the thing is, for the nature of this incident, there was no way to control where those bullets went. Gabryel, who may not have been the intended target, ended up taking the worst hit. Despite the efforts of medical staff at OSF Little Company of Mary Hospital, Gabryel succumbed to her injuries. She was pronounced gone at the hospital. Rico survived his injuries and is expected to recover physically. Shortly after, someone made a post writing, "They just tried to end my cousin. God got him though. Rico Suave, love you, still here." The post confirmed what investigators already knew, that Rico had survived a targeted attack. People who lived in the area, who knew Gabryel, or who were just tired of the violence that had been plaguing Chicago for years, spoke out. After Gabryel's passing, her old social media post from November 21, 2025 resurfaced. Gabryel had made a post saying she was going to post someone's deceased brother in a casket on her page. The
Okay, so now we getting further into, why this possibly could have happened. Okay, listen, let's look at this post. Let's read it. It says, "Now let me post her dead ass brother in casket on my page," with the crying laughing emoji and then another. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Okay, you don't have to be born and raised in Chicago to understand the culture of Chicago. Okay, we see this time and time again. We see these articles every day, just about. Okay, this is a culture that Chicago has adapted. And for some strange reason, it has become a worldwide phenomenon. You know what I'm saying? And people have gotten to the point now to where, they feel like the ultimate disrespect is to speak on your dead loved ones. Okay, now let's talk about this from a human standpoint, right? Okay, I'm a human being. I'm not going to sit here and tell, anybody that, I'm a killer, I'm a monster, none of that, because I am not. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe in defending myself, and, whatever happens, happens. But now but I'm not the type of person. Let's talk about this from a human standpoint. As a human being, right? If you're arguing with a person, right? And, for whatever reason, they decide to say, okay, I'm going to now speak on your dead loved ones. And it doesn't matter if it's mother, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, cousin, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Okay, now, I don't care what you say. As a human being, that is going to set off some sort of anger within you. Now, how you react to that anger, you know what I'm saying, depends on you. So once again, now that we see this, you know what I'm saying, we see this post right here, okay, once again, I'm not saying that this post is justifiable for someone taking her life. And I want to stress that and make that very clear. None of this am I saying is justifiable. But what I'm saying is understanding the culture of Chicago and understanding that these type of posts, these type of statements has led to a lot of people dying in the streets of Chicago. This has been an issue that the city of Chicago has been dealing with for years now. This is nothing new. So when I see things like this, the first thing, I want to say is like, okay, when is it going to stop? You know what I'm saying? When are we going to come to a solution? When are we going to figure out a way that we can stop things like this from happening? Because let's not forget, there was an innocent child, a child that had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with this situation. And just by the grace of God, this child is still here with us, even though her mother is, and it's like, now her father, who by the grace of God happened to survive this, now he's left with the burden of having to explain to his daughter, the tragedy that happened to her mother when she was just at the tender age. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going into the video.
Post sparked heated exchanges in the comments. A woman questioned whether Gabryel would actually post it, warning that Rico and someone else were going to handle it. She also asked if Gabryel's people were getting dragged out of a car going on a mission.
Okay, so let's look at this. Let's look at this. Now, this is some back and forth exchanges between her and it looks like some young lady named Diamond Howard. You know what I'm saying? Where, okay, this is the young lady, Diamond Howard. Oh, I don't know. Okay, it says, so it looks like she's responding to the original post where she puts, now let me post her dead ass brother in casket on my page with the laughing emoji. And I'm assuming that this Diamond Howard girl is responding to that. And she says, I don't give a fuck, post it. Oh no, this is the young lady. I guess this is the young lady she's talking about. And her response is, I don't give a fuck, post it. Rico and them gonna handle you. Wasn't your people getting dragged out a car going on a mission? So these are the things that I'm talking about right here. So listen, first of all, let's like this type of stuff right here. Now, this young lady seems to be not only responding to, you know, what she may believe as a disrespectful statement from the Gabby girl, right? But in also in responding to her statement, you're also, sort of giving up information on previous, illegal activities, because you saying now, wasn't your people getting dragged out of car going on a mission? So it's like, we don't know if that's a crime that happened in Chicago that's already been solved and the people have been convicted of it or not. Or we don't know if that's a open investigation still. And here it is, you're going on the internet and you're posting, this type of information. And then, the Gabby girl responds and she says, your brother got left on a hit. Once again, she puts the laughing emoji. I mean, two people commented on it. They laughed at it. So now the Diamond Girl, she comes back. And she says, and Reef didn't. He actually got shot and dragged out of car, leaving blood down the street. And she puts the laughing emoji. So it seems like these girls are going back and forth with each other about people who are now deceased or people who have been shot at or shot, in previous events, and they're just going back and forth with each other speaking on it. You know what I'm saying? So now we get into, a better understanding of, okay, now we can kind of re-examine things and look at, okay, now we have a reason, and once again, it's not a legitimate reason. It's not a valid reason, but in the street culture, this would be considered a reason for this type of retaliation. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going.
Gabryel replied, saying that her brother got left on a hit. That same day, Gabryel had also posted saying she didn't care about anyone posting her address because she was moving. Now, looking back at these posts after...
Okay, so now, once again, my problem that I have with this going back and forth on the internet, right? Is the fact that, okay, so let's look when this post was made. Let's try to put this together. Because I don't want to move too fast and I don't want to, make, false accusations against anyone. Okay, so from my understanding, they're saying that her daughter was born December of 2024, I want to say. Okay, so now this post here is made November 21st of 2025. So this post looks like it's been made shortly before her daughter's first birthday. Because if her daughter's born in December of 2024, this post is made November 21st, 2025. So once again, this is the problem I have with this, right? Okay. You not only have a successful business going for yourself, you know what I'm saying? You have a beautiful young daughter that you are now responsible for. So by all accounts, right, you don't really strike me as the type of young lady that would be involved in this type of, behavior. You know what I'm saying? Because I would look at it and be like, okay, she got a successful business. She's got a beautiful child, that's getting ready to turn 1 year old. Like, she's got a lot to live for. So why would you want to potentially throw all of that away by entertaining some people that don't want to see you win anyway? So that's the issue that I have with this. The fact that you kind of let these people bait you into this. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, okay, look, I got way too much going for myself, you know what I'm saying, than to let y'all, girls that ain't got nothing going, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna let y'all drag me down. But for some reason, you got baited into this back and forth conversation with these people, and now, you know, nobody really knows how far, either side is willing to go. But let's keep going.
After what happened to Gabryel, people started connecting dots. The exchanges weren't just casual online arguments. They involved references to violence, retaliation, and threats.
Right.
But here's the thing. While people were looking at Gabryel's social media history, they were also looking at Rico's timeline, and what was found raised even more questions. On February 14, 2025, almost a full year before the incident, Rico had made a post that painted a concerning picture of his relationship with Gabryel. He posted about texting Gabryel to FaceTime him with their daughter, and when she finally called after 3 hours, he said she was getting messed up. He wrote that if anyone even played like that, he was going to put 300 rounds all across them and her.
Okay. So now look, now, we getting a little deeper into the story. So now based on this post that he made, and this is according to what they reporting, this post was made, almost a year before this incident even took place. And what he's saying is that, so based on this post, we can kind of see that their relationship wasn't as solid as, people may think it is. They had some tension, they had some issues. Because according to this post, he asked her to call him on FaceTime so he could see his daughter or talk to his daughter or whatever, which I don't see a problem with that. But I guess when she called, he's saying that, she was getting messed up. She's partying, probably smoking weed, drinking with her little girls or whatever. But she was getting messed up and he didn't like it. But now that's not justifiable to say, okay, if she continued to play like that, or if anybody else continued to play like that, that you're going to paint 300 rounds across them? Like, okay, listen, bro. Okay, I'm not sitting here saying that if my child's mother called me, with my, infant child, because you got to remember, at this point in time, I don't even think that this child is that old yet. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not really, because, okay, let's say this post was made February 14th of 2025. So when this post was made, his daughter was she's born December 2024. So she's only a few months old. She's about December, January, February. So she's about two months old, about 2.5 months old, going on 3 months old. So now I can understand as a father, I would be upset about that too, but not upset to the point to where I'm trying to go kill her. Like it's not that real. There's other, ways of dealing with situations like that, and there's legal ways of dealing with situations like that. You don't have to kill her. You don't have to threaten her. You don't have to put your hands on her at all. You can report it to certain authorities and, they will deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but once again, we're getting deeper into the story of why this potentially may have happened. So let's keep going.
The post drew responses from people in the comments. Gabryel herself had responded, posting, "You take me down, you know I'm coming back." Someone commented, telling Gabryel to come get the weapon. Then there were other
Okay, look. So see, look, we're getting deeper into it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'm not, worried about the fact of how she responded. You take me down, I'm coming back. That's typical stuff. You know what I'm saying? Men and women, we go through that all the time. You take me down, yeah, I'm coming back to take you down. I take you down, pretty sure you coming back to take me down. So that's typical stuff. But now, why would you tell her to come get a weapon? You know what I'm saying? Like, for what? Like, why is you going to tell her to come get a weapon? Unless you feel like, okay, this is something that they've gone through before, and you have some idea of the type of man that this, her baby dad is. You know that he has some sort of violent level to him. That's the only way I could view this because, what other reason would you be telling her to come get the weapon? And the weapon is just not anything. She talking about come get the AR. You know what I'm saying? That's an assault rifle. You know what I'm saying? So, that leads me to believe that, okay, that there was some relevancy to that prior post that he made that she's now responding to, where he's mad because she called on FaceTime with his daughter and she's over there getting messed up with her homegirls. And he says, oh, if you continue to play like that, I'm going to paint 300 rounds across you, whoop-de-whoop. Okay, now she's responding to it, saying, hey, listen, you take me down, I'm coming back. So when she says, you take me down, I'm coming back, in my eyes, it's like, okay, you call the authorities on me or try to get, children's services involved or whatever, the organization may be in your city and state. If you try to get these people involved, then I'm coming back and, get you. So what it seems is like they both got dirt on each other. That, okay, look, you say this about me, I got this I can say about you. That's how I'm looking at this. This other girl that's telling her to come get the AR, she must know, okay, this dude, he has some sort of violent tendencies with him. So, girl, like, I want you to come get this AR because I don't trust that nigga. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going.
Comments that were even more direct. Someone tagged Rico and wrote, "We finna end her," and Rico replied, "She thinks it's a game." In other
Okay, so now look, we getting deeper into it. So now, listen. Now, this Rico Suave dude, I thought this was supposed to be her baby dad's name. So I'm kind of confused here. You know what I'm saying? Of who he's talking about, where he says, okay, there's person right here, Reese Money. Now we don't know who this Reese Money person is because this person is not a figure, in this case. So we don't really know who that is. But now the Rico Suave dude, from my understanding, that's her baby dad. So he's talking back and forth with this Reese Money dude, where Reese Money says, okay, we finna kill her 5. And from my understanding, 5, that's a term in the blood gang culture. You know what I'm saying? So, and then Rico, which I'm assuming is her baby dad, he responds because, he puts Reese Money in front. You can tell that's who he's responding to. He says, she think it's a game. Now, are y'all talking about the Diamond Howard girl that, she initially was going back and forth with? Or is this the girl that you're saying, so is the Diamond Howard girl? So is that the girl that Reese Money is saying, we finna kill her 5? And then Rico comes back and responds to him and says, she think it's a game. So that I'm assuming that's gotta be the Diamond Howard girl, because why would you be talking about killing your own baby mama? Unless this is part of the conversation that was had when y'all got into it about her calling you on FaceTime and getting messed up while the baby was there. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going.
responses, he wrote, "She's counting her days. She will not get a second chance to do this." Now, the disturbing part is what these posts suggest when you look at them in the context of what happened a year later. It raises some unsettling questions. Him stating that she wouldn't get a second chance to do this, and the incident occurring just days before Valentine's. How did Rico survive those number of shots if he was actually the target? So was he really involved in planning something against her, or was he caught up in something else entirely, something that had nothing to do with their relationship and everything to do with street conflicts?
Okay, now listen. I can understand why people would think like that. But now, so like, based on those conversations, because now I'm assuming that those conversations were about his baby mama, pertaining to the incident of her calling him on FaceTime, and she got the baby and she getting messed up. You know what I'm saying? So like it seems like this relationship of theirs wasn't really, like I said, it wasn't really solid as what people thought it was. This guy, you know what I'm saying, he like, you know what I'm saying, like, bitch, I'm ready to motherfucking put you in the grave about you getting messed up with my daughter there. Like, and like I said, I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. I just think that, the way these people think sometimes, like the way people react to shit, man, it's unbelievable, bro. And it's like, okay, like, even if that was the case, right? Because we don't know if that's the case. We ain't never seen no video of this girl on FaceTime with her daughter and him, and she getting all messed up, and she's smoking weed and drinking Hennessy and Douce and all that old type of shit. While she got a 2-month-old baby laid up in the crib. So we don't know if that's true. That's just what's being reported to us. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, but once again, that is not, like, I get it. I understand you being mad about it. Like, I get it. But like, it's not enough. Not for me. It's not enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go shoot this bitch up 300 times. Like, that's crazy. But now, once again, we're getting deeper into it. So we're now getting to understand the reason that this led up to what it led up to. But let's keep going.
On December 27th, 2025, Rico had posted, "Long live 3 Ski. Consequences happen every time your name is mentioned." The timeline gets even more concerning when you look at what happened in the days leading up to the incident. On February 3rd, 2026, Rico posted, "You cowards, free Marley, free Demon." That post seemed confrontational. Gabryel's final post was on February 3rd, 2026. She reposted something that read, "I stay humble cause I've seen people laugh at somebody, then turn around and become the same thing they joked about." At 5:58 p.m. on February 4th, 2026.
Okay, so she made that post literally the day before this incident happened. And hold on, let's go back and read what the post said, because we want to try to break this down. Okay, let's go back. Let's see. Hold on.
Happened in the days leading up to the incident. On February 3rd, 2026, Rico posted, "You cowards, free Marley, free Demon." That post seemed confrontational. Gabryel's final post was on February 3rd, 2026. She reposted something that read, "I stay humble cause I've seen..."
Okay. So on February 3rd, you know what I'm saying? Okay, well, the original post, which was made by Star Mills, was made on February 3rd at 4:05 p.m. And then the Gabby girl reposted it February 4th at 5:12 a.m. So she reposted this essentially the morning, of this incident happening. And the post says, "I stay humble because I done seen people laugh at somebody, then turn around and become the same thing they joked about." And she put the 100 emoji at the end. Okay, so now, if we take all of the facts that we have, pertaining to this case, the back and forth with her and the girl on the internet, the post, the back and forth with her and her baby daddy, and, these other situations, you know what I'm saying? Okay, this post is basically saying, I've seen people, laugh about, this person, being unalive until, then they turn around and become the next person who's unalive. You know what I'm saying? So if you read in between the lines, you can kind of get at, the underlying meaning of what this post could mean. You know what I'm saying? Because we've all seen that happen. Especially in the street culture, the gang culture, one side, take somebody from the other side, they laugh, they joke about it on the internet, they troll, they make diss songs and all kinds of stuff. And then next thing you know, one of theirs becomes the next person that's being talked about. So if like I said, if you pay attention and read in between the lines, you can kind of understand, what's being said here. But in my opinion, at this point, this has already been in motion. You know what I'm saying? I think this has been in motion, when the back and forth was going on with, the statements being made about posting, people in dead people in caskets on their page, and, other people, talking about, people being left on missions and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think, based on that, things was put in motion, possibly on both sides. You know what I'm saying? Because it just seems like, the disrespect had been taken to another level. And then, people are already, making comments saying, oh, yeah, we finna get her. You know what I'm saying? She think it's a game, blah, 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 all this and that. And it's just crazy. But let's keep going.
People laugh at somebody, then turn around and become the same thing they joked about. At 5:58 p.m. on February 4, 2026, just hours after the incident that took Gabryel's life, Rico posted,
Welcome to Wix Harmony. Take the power of AI and the freedom of drag and drop to turn your...
Hold on. So now we getting into, the situation done already took place. So now these are posts that he's now making, after the situation has taken place. And, we're gonna, once again, like I said, the whole purpose, of this is to show y'all the behavior and the mindset. You know what I'm saying? If you don't change the mindset, you don't change the behavior, it's going to always be the same outcome. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, no one really wins in the situation because, okay, listen, I'm looking at it like this. This little girl has already lost her mother. And based on the type of guy that you are, instead of you looking at this from a father's aspect and saying, okay, listen, my daughter done already lost her mother. I need to, get my shit together and be a dad to my daughter so she don't end up losing both of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to get this shit up. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like that shit is easy to do. I'm telling y'all from experience, man, it's hard for a person to like turn their life around when they so used to living it a certain way for so long. So when you take a person and you put them around violence and destruction and chaos all the time, and then you pull them out of that after they done been in that for 10 years, and then you pull them out of it and you place them in an area where they don't have to worry about that no more, it's still hard for them to adjust to not being that type of person or not having that mentality because they've been around it so long. But, once again, we have to look at certain things. We have to reevaluate our lives at certain points and learn to make better choices for ourselves. But let's keep going.
Don't put me last knowing I'd be the first one to risk it all for you. The post came approximately 4.5 hours after the incident. Was it a message? Was it directed at the people responsible? A message that he was still standing and still ready to risk it all? The investigation into Gabryel's passing is still ongoing. No arrests have been made, and investigators are still working to identify the perpetrators and determine the motive behind the attack. The video evidence, the surveillance footage from nearby buildings, and the witness statements provide a clear picture of what happened. But the reason why is still unclear. The world keeps spinning and so does crime. Stay observant, listen to your instincts, and don't ignore the warning signs. I'll see you in the next case on Crime on Pulse. Thanks for watching.
Okay. All right. So that's that for the video. Okay, so once again, right, the purpose of this, right, and once again, I'm gonna say this, and I can't stress this enough. I am not in any way, shape, form, or fashion condoning or justifying any of the actions that took place in this case. You know, I don't feel like any of us, you know, should be given the power, or nor do we have the power to determine whose life, you know, should be taken and who should be allowed to live. You know, so, you know, once again, I'm not condoning any of this, but, you know, I'm trying to get people to understand, okay, listen, we've seen this, you know, time and time again. We've seen, you know, I just look at this and I think that it's sad that, you know, not only her, but I feel like, you know, her baby father is, you know, just as much a part of the problem, you know, because I look at it like this, you know, from the moment, you know, I don't care what you guys was into before this child was brought into the world, you know, but once, when the moment came to where y'all produced this young child and y'all brought this beautiful little girl into the world, both of y'all, you know, should have, you know, put all of that nonsense behind you, you know, so the going back and forth, you know, like I felt like, you know, especially her, because we don't really see anything being reported about he had a business going, you know, as far as we know, he was just probably a rapper trying to make it in Chicago, but essentially, you know, he was just a street nigga. You know, she seemed to be one of those type of people, and I'm not saying that, you know, like I said, I understand, you know, in Chicago, you know, and a lot of places, you know, all over the world, right? You know, based on, you know, the neighborhood that you grow up in and things of that nature, right? You somehow, you know, get affiliated with the nonsense that goes on, right? Even if you're not a part of it, like you're not an active member in it or whatever, just because you come from the neighborhood, you're automatically associated with it. You know what I'm saying? There's not very many people who can be neutral. And when I say be neutral, meaning that, you know, if you come from a certain area, right, there's not very many of us that come from certain areas that are able to go, you know, in rival areas and be neutral and still be like, okay, yeah, I got love for y'all too, you know, but, you know, this my neighborhood, so I gotta have love for the neighborhood, whoop-de-whoop, whatever the case may be. It's not a lot of situations like that, right? So sometimes we have to take it upon ourselves. Like I said, sometimes, listen, and I'm only telling y'all this from experience, right? Because like I said, you know, I've been to federal prison and state prison, you know, and you know, I had a personal conversation with my kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna go into details about that conversation, but just know, you know what I'm saying, like my kids, you know, they sat me down and, you know, they had a real stern conversation with their dad, and they said, look, it's either this or this. You know what I'm saying? So like I had to sit back and reevaluate my life and understand that, you know, the decisions that I make, you know, they not only affect me, but they affect a lot of other people around me. So like I said, it's a sad situation. And I wish that both of these, you know, individuals, you know, involved in this, you know, her and her baby dad, I wish both of them, you know, and especially him, excuse me, right now, if he was to happen to see this video, right, my message to you, young brother, is that, listen, I get it. I understand you angry. I understand you mad. You upset. You want blood. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But listen, bro, you got a beautiful young daughter that you got to raise. You know what I'm saying? She's already lost her mother. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that she can take losing her father too. So my message to you, my brother, and like I said, listen, I'm not condemning you either way. You know what I'm saying? And I just want you to understand, bro, like now's the time, you know, to break the cycle. You know what I'm saying? You can possibly be the spark that Chicago needs, you know, in order to change. You know, because I see, you know, there's some factions in Chicago that are now, you know, pushing peace. So I'm not saying that there aren't people in Chicago that are trying to, you know, insert, you know, a better way, you know, but sometimes, you know, it's situations like this that, you know, depending on how you deal with this situation and how you react to this, you know, sometimes, you know, and like I said, the reaction is always going to be mixed, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes, you know, because there's going to be people that if you decide not to retaliate for this, let's just say you say, you know what, I'm not going to retaliate. I'm going to, you know, make a better life for myself, for my daughter, and for my daughter's mother. Okay, there's going to be people that's going to think you weak, you lame, you pussy, and all that type of stuff, right? Okay, it's not about that. You know what I'm saying? It's about your daughter. You know what I'm saying? So like if I gotta be labeled pussy, weak, or whatever, you know what I'm saying, because I'm trying to be a better person for my children or for my child, okay, then, you know, I accept that. You know, because like I said, you know, like you labeling me as something does not dictate who I am. So once again, like I said, my brother, if you happen to see this video, my message to you, man, is like I said, you know, think about the situation, like really think about it and really, you know, figure out the right way to handle the situation. Once again, my condolences to both families. My condolences to the young lady, Gabryel Ayers. You know, my condolences to her family. I'm extremely sorry for your loss. And I hope and pray that you guys get justice, you know, for the young man who was involved and by the grace of God survived. You know, my condolence. I mean, I want to send my prayers to your family too, as well. And I hope that y'all take this as a learning lesson. You know what I'm saying? And I want to, you know, say thank God that that young girl, you know, strapped in the back of that car, you know, was not hurt. You know what I'm saying? That shows us, and that's a testament to how powerful, you know, the grace of God really is. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, man, I'm Blanco. We out. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate everybody for tuning in. You know what I'm saying? If you want to drop comments, man, drop your, you know, your opinions in the comments. You know what I'm saying? I will try to respond to as many comments as possible, man. But until next time, we out.